Oh, hamstring. Up. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans.
Welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman.
Well, good morning, and a pleasant good Tuesday morning. Hope everybody's back and at 'em after the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend. Lindsay, welcome back. It's good to have you back. You had a big weekend, no doubt, doing what college co-eds do, right? Have fun.
Yeah, I went out Friday and Saturday, and then yesterday watched the Steelers get brutally beat, in my opinion. I think it was a very hard watch.
Well, for those who don't know, Lindsay is a Steelers fan, even though she's from Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
That's right.
You a Buckeyes fan?
No, I'm a Penn State fan.
Oh, my God. How did she get this internship? You're one of the bosses around here. How did she get the internship? How did that happen?
We
A Penn State fan and a Steelers fan.
After we hired you, Tom, we said no more Ohio State fans. So
Yeah.
that was the end of that. So anyone to just
There are going to be plenty of them jumping on the bandwagon next year, Daddy. You can mark that down. We welcome you to Off the Bench, presented by our friends at United Dairy Farmers. I'm Tom Brenneman with Casey, Lindsay, Zebra, Reed Mouse. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 to 12. You can join us on YouTube. That's the Chatterbox Sports page, or we broadcast live as well on X. A lot of good stuff being sent out recently by our guy,
Whose guy?
Elon.
Elon, what's
He's had a
saying?
lot of good posts lately.
I bet.
That's at Seabox Sports, or if you choose to join us in podcast form, just search Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman, and you're dialed in. Well, in college basketball, they call it the Elite Eight. That sounds a lot cooler than the division round of the NFL postseason, right? Either way, that's where we stand after the conclusion of the Super Wild Card weekend yesterday and last night. In the afternoon in snowy Buffalo, it looked like a blowout for the Bills early on, but then the Steelers got within 7. And be honest now, were you, waiting for that Josh Allen turnover? You were just waiting for it to happen. One mistake that he will make from time to time, more than time to time. Well, yesterday, it never happened. He was unbelievable. Allen threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for another. Buffalo knocks out Pittsburgh 31-17. Allen, in fact, becomes the first quarterback ever in postseason play to throw for 3 touchdowns while running for 70 or more yards and a touchdown in a single playoff game. The Bills get the Chiefs next weekend at home. That will mark the first time ever that your guy, Patty Cake Mahomes, he has to go on the road and make a postseason start. Think about that. All the times he's been in the playoffs, the only time he's either played at home or he's played in the Super Bowl. That's it. Weather conditions were perfect in Tampa, unlike Buffalo. And how about Baker Mayfield? Somebody around here was talking him up even a year ago when he played for 3 teams. How did he look last night?
He looked pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, he looked
Pretty good?
Tom.
I mean, come on, Tom. That team in Philadelphia was ready to just call it quits already. They were done.
It was
they were
a 32-9 rout. Mayfield goes for 337 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks. If Mike Evans and some of the other receivers decided they wanted to catch the ball every now and again, he might have thrown for 500 yards. They're dropping balls all over the field, the Tampa Bay receivers last night. Mayfield, just FYI, Casey, now has more playoff wins than Lamar, Justin Herbert, and Tua combined. Combined. And he's done it with 2 different franchises, yet you give him 0 credit. None. And you win none.
I like to see some more. See some more.
See some more?
Yeah.
Come on.
He's only won 2, Tom. He's only won 2. And you want to know what that other playoff game was? It was against her Steelers. that were already on the verge of collapse with Ben Roethlisberger's arm being completely worn out.
Two things about Baker Mayfield. One, I'm actually happy for Baker Mayfield because the dude is a nut cutter. He's a nut cutter.
There's no doubt about it.
This weekend put a smile on my face because it could not have gone any worse for the Cleveland Browns. I said this yesterday. They had the best season in the past 3 decades. They won 11 games, the most wins that they've had since they restarted the franchise. They lost to a team by 30 that owns all of their draft picks. And oh yeah, the guy you traded, the guy you got rid of because you didn't want anymore, won a playoff game against the defending NFC champions and won by 25 points. I mean, what a beautiful day it is to be a Cleveland Browns fan.
Let me be very clear, because I see the chat going nuts and saying that I won't give him credit. That's not what I said. I just wanted to see some more. I thought he played great last night. But it was against a team that was on the verge of collapse, and the other playoff game was also on the verge of collapse, and he took care of business like he should have. If we're going to give him credit, he should have won these 2 games. Am I right in saying that?
Over the last 7 years, the Cincinnati Bengals, we're talking about the Browns, Steelers, Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals have as many playoff wins over the past 7 years as the other 3 teams in the division have combined.
Okay, that's all fine and dandy. But the last time I checked, Baltimore and Pittsburgh have won Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowls.
Not over the last 7 years.
Well, maybe not the last 7 years, but that could change this year.
Could.
By the way, Philadelphia, I mean, you talk about a collapse down the stretch. They won 1 game since November. And then after the game, legendary Pro Bowl center and former Cincinnati Bearcat star Jason Kelce told his teammates he's retiring after 193 starts in the NFL. 7 times a Pro Bowler, 6 times a captain, a Super Bowl champion, not to mention millions and millions of dollars raised through the years for Philadelphia charities. All right. Casey, do we have a graphic of the way we're stacking them up at all? Or did I fail to remind you of that? I did, didn't I? I'll just tell you about it. Don't worry about it. We'll just tell you about it. We'll start on Saturday with the playoff games. 4:30, you have the fighting C.J. Strouds traveling to top-seeded Baltimore. That game's on ESPN. Saturday night, 8:15 on Fox. The NFC's top seed 49ers will host the upstart Green Bay Packers. Then Sunday, the Buccaneers travel to Ford Field, a 3 o'clock kick against the fighting Chris Spielmans. That game is on NBC. And then on Sunday night, the heavyweight bout, the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs battle the Bills in Buffalo, kickoff at 6:30 on CBS. Late last night, during the playoff game, the Atlanta Falcons announced that they had interviewed Bill Belichick for their head coaching job yesterday. It's the first known interview for Belichick since parting ways with New England last week. One of Belichick's 6 Super Bowl titles came against the Falcons. That was a game you may remember. New England trailed 28-3 at halftime, won in overtime, 34-28. That's forever known as the Kyle Shanahan Bowl.
The Shanahan Bowl?
Nobody remember that? What that means? The Kyle Shanahan Bowl?
No. Was he the OC of the Falcons?
He was the OC of the Falcons and decided it'd be a good idea when they were up 28-3 to just throw the ball all over the field.
Right.
And stop the clock. Gave Brady and the boys a chance to come back and win it. Forever known in Atlanta as the Kyle Shanahan Bowl.
Not a very good coach.
Jim Harbaugh interviewed yesterday in L.A. with the Chargers. What's next for him? We do not know, but there will be something. College basketball, it's a big night in the Queen City. The rugged Big 12 schedules continues for the UC Bearcats tonight as number 19 TCU comes to Fifth Third Arena. The Cats are coming off back-to-back close losses, which is okay by Elliott, to Texas and Baylor. It's a 4th straight game against a top 25 team for UC. Now, the Hornfrogs, they got jobbed at Kansas. I mean, one of the worst calls you have ever seen in your life, to lose by 1 at KU. But then they bounced back. They beat number 9 Oklahoma and shocked number 2 Houston at home over the weekend. Tip-off 7 o'clock on the juggernaut that is ESPN+. How in the world is Cincinnati?
It's the Big 12, Tom.
I mean, yeah, seriously.
Yeah, it's the conference.
Xavier looks for its second straight win as Butler visits the Cintas Center tonight. You going to that one?
I am. I'm going with my
Dana Garden.
I'm going with my godson and my dad.
Dana Garden.
Yeah, we're probably it's part of the thing. I'm not enjoying that walk from Dana Gardens to Cintas.
You don't walk from there.
Sure. It's like 2 blocks.
Man. It's long. It's the longest 2 blocks known to man.
Today it's going to be very long.
Yeah.
But it's
normally not bad, but tonight brutal.
Tom, you're
They're
telling
saying
me
tonight's going to be the coldest night all week.
time out. You're telling me I should drive?
Dude, that you better. Well, if you're dressed right, you're okay.
It's
I
like
get
a
out and walk the
quarter mile.
dogs in this nonsense. If you're dressed right, it's okay. But if you're not, brother,
God gave me 2 legs to walk.
I got you. Amen. That is a 6:30 tip on FS1. Number 21, Dayton, plays at 8 o'clock at UD Arena against St. Louis. Number 2, Purdue locks up with longtime rival Indiana in Bloomington. And that one, you want to check it out? You just paid your money for Peacock.
That's terrible.
Hey, you already paid
Indiana
for it?
Purdue on Peacock tonight.
Purdue, but yeah.
Yeah, Purdue. That's terrible. That's the second straight game. So the Big Ten, their deal is with Peacock then?
Yeah, they had
deal with
a
NBC,
bunch
right?
of football games behind that paywall during the
That's
regular
right.
season.
That's a
So the Big
Saturday
Ten's
night.
with the NBC then? Big Ten?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
See, Tom, you are dead on. How does the best college basketball conference in the land have games on ESPN Plus? How does that happen?
Don't ask me. That's above my pay scale. Although I'm trying to see what is. I meant to look, and I got it right here in front of me. I want to see what is on regular ESPN tonight. Okay, ESPN2, you got Florida and Tennessee, but that's at 5 o'clock. But once you have Syracuse and Pitt.
Brutal.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Brutal.
Boy, how Syracuse, that program. What else they got tonight on there? ESPN, you have Kansas at Oklahoma State. Now, that's at 9 o'clock. But the 7 o'clock game on ESPN, you have Syracuse and Pitt. Even Ohio University and Miami are on ESPN+. Same as UC.
Well,
What does that tell you?
Come on.
You think I'm kidding you?
I know
Miami
you're not.
is
I know
at
you're
home to
not.
Bowling Green at Millett Hall, where there'll be about 14 people there. And then you have Ohio University at the Convocation Center in A-Town against Central Michigan. There'll be a good crowd for that one. Both on ESPN+. Just like your UC Bearcats.
Listen,
My UC Bearcats.
It's not our fault that the
TCU
Big
guy.
12 made a deal with ESPN Plus. All the games are there. It's not my fault.
I
I will say it is very nice if you're a Xavier fan to have every game televised nationally. That would be nice. I would like
That's
that.
what I errantly said when you guys joined the Big 12. I was like, at least all of your games are going to be on TV.
Yeah,
Instead, it's on ESPN Plus.
all of them.
God love them.
All right, we got Brian Billack coming up at 10:30, former Super Bowl winning head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, to talk about the Ravens coming in and the pressure. Clearly, all the pressure on the Ravens for this weekend against Houston and the fighting C.J. Strouds. There's no doubt about that. So we'll hear from him, talk about some other things, Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh. I want to start with the games yesterday. If Buffalo's Josh Allen plays like he did yesterday, they might beat everybody. If he doesn't turn the ball over, man, when that cat shows up, 3 touchdown passes, has the 50-something yard run where he just blows right by everybody.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not telling anybody anything you don't know, but if he takes care of the ball, that is a really good team.
Tom, I don't know if you saw this stat for Josh Allen, but in his playoff career, and I've been fighting the good fight on the Buffalo Bills. Everyone calls them frauds. I remember yesterday someone was telling me the Buffalo Bills are bigger frauds than the Dallas Cowboys and Miami Dolphins.
Oh,
And
my God.
I said, how? The Buffalo Bills have won more games have won the second most games and the second most playoff games over the past 4 years. So I don't know how exactly you call them frauds, but they threw up this stat. Josh Allen in his career in the postseason is averaging over 250 yards passing and 50 yards rushing a game. He's the first quarterback to ever do that. And I invite you guys to pull up his game log in the postseason. 2,500 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Doesn't turn the ball over. That's been his MO through the regular season. The guy turns the ball over a whole lot. Well, he doesn't do it in the postseason. The only problem is Josh Allen, like in the post, they've ran into the same wagon a couple of times, and that's the team they play this weekend in the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, man, you got some PTSD coming up. At least you're at home this time at Highmark Stadium. You got to make Patrick Mahomes come to you, but man, they've played some barn burners, the Chiefs and the Bills have in the postseason over the past few years.
They have.
It'll be a good game. I saw this stat, too. I know Mahomes has never played on the road in the playoffs. Do you know how many playoff wins Troy Aikman has? It's 11. You know how many Patrick Mahomes has?
Well, he hasn't played one.
It's 12. No, I'm talking about just regular
playoff
playoff
ones, yeah.
Just regular. Patrick Mahomes has 12 playoff wins.
Yeah.
If he wins another, he ties Brett Favre, Staubach, Roethlisberger. If he wins 2, he ties Bradshaw, Elway, Young, Manning. That's how good this cat is. So I'm not going to put too much stock in Mahomes on the road. But going back to what Tom just said, I do think the Buffalo Bills will win it all now. I do believe that. After
You
what I
really
saw.
do?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I don't think it's going to come out of the NFC. Again, this is when I close my eyes at night, I can't see Brock Purdy hoisting up the Lombardi Trophy, and I certainly don't believe in anybody else in that conference. I think the AFC has the best chance with the Ravens and the Bills. And that's not even including the Chiefs, who I do think the Chiefs could potentially get there as well. It'll be a shootout, though, that Chiefs-Bills game for sure.
One thing about the playoff wins, it should be noted, it's the same with baseball, they play more games in the postseason than they did with the Bradshaws and the Elways and the Aikmans and all those guys. And but it's a testament to what Kansas City has been able to do. And look, there may be probably 2 more Super Bowls away winning, 1 for sure, or 1 maybe 2 for sure, of being every bit the dynasty that, maybe not with New England, no one will ever do that, but what Aikman's Cowboys did. They won 3. Bradshaw's Steelers, right? Elway won a couple, but Mahomes has already won a couple. Mm-hmm. He's already played in 3. You know, I was thinking about that driving in today, about that game. And again, that's Sunday night. As impressive as Buffalo has been, there's just something that happens to Mahomes once he gets in the playoffs. I mean, I don't know how anybody in their right mind, and I'm not a gambler. I have every other sin known to man except for that one. I don't know how anybody in their right mind would bet their hard-earned money against Patrick Mahomes. I don't care where they play and who they play.
I was talking to these guys about the spreads because there are some wild spreads for the games this weekend. Tom, you're not a gambler, and I don't know if you heard me talking about it earlier, but you want to take a guess on what the spread is in Buffalo, Kansas, playing in Buffalo? Want to take a
guess? I'd say Buffalo by 1.
Buffalo is favored by about a field goal, 2.5.
Okay, so that's the home spread.
Right.
Okay.
So I actually thought that it was going to be bigger. I thought that Buffalo was going to be favored by like 4.5. So I out of all the games this week, I don't know what the heck's going to happen here. Okay, and it should be fantastic. And as football fans, we deserve Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes every single year because they are 2 of the most exciting quarterbacks that we've seen in our lifetime. Truly are. I mean, you saw it with Josh Allen last night. You've seen it with Patrick Mahomes through the majority of his career. It's going to be fantastic. But I'm with you, Tom. And that's been my take on Kansas City all season long. Yes,
it has been. You said that all year long.
Your eyes tell you that this team is much different than they used to be. And that's true. I still don't understand why they don't get more credit for their defense. But at the end of the day, this is a team that's won 2 Super Bowls. This is a team that's done nothing but play in the AFC Championship.
Yep.
This is the best quarterback in the league. This is the best coach in the league. And you're going to bet against them? Now, I don't think anybody in football is playing better than the Buffalo Bills over the last month. I actually pulled up a clip. I think I tweeted it out, Tom, of when the Bills were 7-6 I put them in our weekly power rankings 7-6, and you and Elliot both called me crazy. You said, I cannot believe.
Well, we wouldn't have been the only ones.
Right.
They had a 21% chance of making the playoffs. They were 6-6 at one point.
And they roared back, didn't they?
And who they roared back against.
Good teams.
Yeah, really good.
Good teams. You could honestly, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Bills in overtime to go to 10-1, and that flipped both teams on their head. Because since then, the Philadelphia Eagles were terrible. Won one of their final games of the year, gave up like 35 points a game. And the Buffalo Bills look like the best team in football since then. So I don't know what happened back there in that Week 11 game, Week 12 game. But, man, I really am excited for this Patrick Mahomes-Josh Allen game because I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, I feel bad for Bills fans that if they lose to the Chiefs again, man, oh man, I like the Bills fans.
All right, let me ask you this real quick because it's going to be – Sunday night's game is going to be the highest-rated game of the NFL season, without a doubt.
Yep.
In a year where they've had the highest ratings since they started tracking such things back in 1995. This Sunday night's game will be the highest-rated NFL game, hands down, until you get to the Super Bowl. What is more exciting for America? Now, take off your orange and black glasses. But Reed just said something that makes me ask this question. Is America more interested in Josh Allen v. Patrick Mahomes than what they've had the last 2 years in Patrick Mahomes v. Joe Burrow?
I don't know. I mean, I would say it's about the same, I guess. I mean, I don't know if it is as big of a deal to the nation that whoever Mahomes faces, is it Joe Burrow or Josh Allen? I don't think there's a difference. I really don't. But maybe there's a majority of public that would rather see Josh just because he's more explosive, I guess. Like Joe Burrow's not as flashy. He doesn't do the quarterbacks runs and the deep bombs running around like Josh Allen does, I guess.
What do you guys think?
They absolutely want Bills Chiefs. America wants
Correct.
Bills Chiefs. But that's only because
Why do you say that? Why do you say
just like for reasons he said. Josh Allen, again, Joe Burrow is a great quarterback, but Joe Burrow is not running for a 52-yard touchdown across midfield in a playoff game. It's just not what Joe Burrow does. I think it's an exciting brand of football that Josh Allen plays. Patrick Mahomes is the same way. So I think the Bengals, again, the way they've played in the playoffs is you use Joe Burrow and you use the defense to stop Patrick Mahomes, hold him to a couple field goals, and you use shout out to your guy Evan McPherson, and you can go down and kick field goals. But I'm serious, in the playoffs, that's how it's been.
Shout out to my guy.
That's
Evan
your guy,
McPherson.
Evan McPherson.
See, you jumped on the Everett train.
Well, it was a funny joke. Everett kept doing it yesterday. It was very funny.
It's tired.
But I will say, yeah, it's America wants Bills Chiefs, and that's okay. That's fine by me. If the Bengals play the Chiefs, I'm going to cheer for the Bengals just the same. If America doesn't like that, that's fine. That's my team.
Don't you think there's something to, though, that I agree with everything you just said, but I also think there is something to, the thing about watching two cars getting ready to crash, right? That is Josh Allen.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I mean, he brings that element. He can run like he did for 55, but he can just as easily fumble it 2 or 3 times and throw 2 or 3 picks. And I mean, what happened?
He's the best watch in the NFL. Him and Matt Stafford are my favorite quarterbacks to watch because they do things that no other quarterbacks can do. Patrick Mahomes is in the same jest, but not to the same extent. They do things that other quarterbacks can't do. And then also, they do stuff that just looks like the most boneheaded mistake you've ever seen, but you live and die with it. The reason that America obviously wants to watch Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes more than Patrick Mahomes versus Joe Burrow. And the reason is because the games, when they have played each other, have just been better. I mean, you think about 2 years ago, right before the Bengals beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Do you remember that game against the Bills? The Bills take a lead with like 13 seconds, Tom.
Yep.
They take a lead with 13 seconds left, and what happens? Patrick Mahomes throws a pass down the field. They kick a field goal, send it to overtime. They score on their opening drive. That final, I'm looking at the score, 36-42.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Burrow's never played a game with Patrick Mahomes like that. They're 2 playoff games, but more than 70 points have been scored both times. So that's why it's more fun. People like watching touchdowns.
This is a great take here, and I think there's something to be said for that. Derby stardom. Who's doing the chat rankings this week?
Casey has
you might
done
want
it.
to just file this away. This is a great point.
Casey has
I
done
think
it in
he's
4
spot
years.
on. He says, to me, the Bills are the Cubs of the NFL. Many want to see them win a championship. Well, aren't the Bengals also?
I would say the
Cubs?
Browns. The Browns are the Cubbies, but
I don't know. I don't know how to compare that to some of the MLB teams because I don't know their history. But I do think a lot of America would like to see the Bills win a championship. I think a lot of America would like to see the Texans win a championship. Any of these teams that have not won a championship, I think, are in line for America to win it all. I think they're tired of seeing Mahomes, honestly. But in terms of just this game this week, the Bills, Chiefs, I do agree with you. I think that this week is probably going to be the highest rated playoff game for the whole year. And it just depends on who moves on from that game to determine whether or not it'll be broken again. But this is one of the most anticipated quarterback matchups. And I would actually be shocked to find out that they played each other this year. I would be shocked to find out if they weren't in the top 5 in that game game played as well. Because it's just electric football, like we've said.
Matt Jenkins says Josh Allen is the best player for the Bills and sometimes the best player for the other team.
that's fair.
That's true.
That's fair. Josh Allen against the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season. His record's 3-1. In the postseason, 0-2.
Yikes. And people also want to see the Buffalo Bills fan base. I think that's a part of it, too. It's not just never winning a Super Bowl. The Bills have a reputation of being one of the more crazier fan bases. Hell, they were shirtless in negative 5-degree weather in snow, rolling around in snow in their stadium, working for $20 an hour.
Yep.
So people want to see that.
They do.
People like seeing the underdog story there in the Buffalo people. So yeah, I think it should be the game of the year without question.
All right. Well, let's get to we have Brian Billack dialed in.
Yes, we do.
All right. Let's get to the former Super Bowl winning head coach of the Ravens, and they march on. He's back in Columbus, Ohio with is that the Jack Nicklaus Golden Bear lid there? Is that Upper Arlington or is that
Golden
just Jack?
No, that's Upper Arlington Golden Bears. I was out shoveling the snow, so I needed some protection.
You guys got snow up there?
Just enough to get it off the driveway. Yeah. Plus, I needed the exercise.
Okay. Now, somebody said in the chat here, am I supposed to ask you something about not knowing what down it was coaching over the weekend?
Yeah. Well, I knew you'd bring that up. I lost the down at the end. We were driving in a 2-minute. I was told we didn't have a timeout. We did have a timeout. I should have called timeout. And I thought we had the first down. The guy got the ball, took it down to about the 5. I thought it was a first down, so I wanted him to kill it because I didn't think we had a timeout. But he didn't quite get there, and it was 4th down. So, I basically screwed it up. But we won the game 24-17.
Well, there you go. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Did you enjoy it? Was it fun being back on the sideline?
Oh, it was great fun. It was great fun being around those young players. And tell you what, the 2 quarterbacks I had, Carter Bradley and Jack Plummer from Louisville. Real deal. Good guys. Oh, and we did something neat. You'll get a kick out of this. We had a company from Canada. I had my game plan on a laptop. They had these electronic buzzers on their arm for the play call. I'd select the play. I played Madden football all day. I'd select the play. It'd come up on their digital display.
You're kidding me.
Pretty cool. In fact, I'm meeting with the high school association. I'm hoping the high school association will approve it because this, everybody's talking about sign stealing, right? College football and whatever. This eliminates it. This was a pretty cool deal.
Well, that's really cool. All right. Well, good luck on that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that on the fields around the Buckeye State in the fall.
They should.
You look at anything. What surprised you the most about the wild card weekend?
Well, first off, nothing should really surprise you about the wild card, just because it is that. It's the wild card, and you have some teams on the extreme back end that all of a sudden can get hot and look pretty good. You have some teams, particularly now since there's only one bye, and you have some teams that really probably should have been in a bye, like the Dallas Cowboys. That was probably the biggest surprise for Green Bay to go into Dallas against a team that's unbeatable at home and absolutely dominate them. And Love, the quarterback at Green Bay, I really hadn't seen him that much this season. That was impressive. He was impressive. The rest of the weekend, obviously Philadelphia is absolute. We all were wondering, okay, it's been a tough month. Will they somehow rebound? They're still a pretty good team. Well, obviously not. So that demise was probably the biggest surprise, because I really thought they might have a chance to reassert themselves and show they had some sense of being that team that was 10-1, but obviously not.
Baker Mayfield, we were talking about him a little bit, before the season started, getting another chance, fresh start, new team. Last year with 3 different teams along the way, Cleveland cuts him loose 2 years ago. There's just something about this guy, Brian. I mean, I think a lot of people call it the it factor, if there is such a thing as the it factor. But now 2 different franchises to get playoff wins. And last night, if his receivers catch a football, I made the comment earlier, he might have thrown for 450 or 500 yards last night.
And I think that's Baker Mayfield. He can look spectacular, and then he can look not so good, because he's not afraid to put it in there. The difference between the great ones and the not great ones, they all want to be able to, I'm going to throw this thing in here. The great ones consistently get there and know when to do that, when not to do it, know where to put the ball. I'm not sure Baker Mayfield is there, but when he can get going, he's willing to take the shot. And, you can win some games with him. Can he sustain it over a 16-game season and in through the playoffs and all the way to a Super Bowl without the other Baker Mayfield showing up? I don't know. But certainly he was impressive the other night. Now, it was again against Philadelphia defense that has stopped.
Yeah, I mean, they look terrible. They look terrible. Well, would you be shocked, since you brought that up, because I've been, I read things just like you read things. I mean, it shocks me that there would be talk about Siriani getting run in Philadelphia, but apparently there are people that think that has a chance to happen. Does that shock you?
No, Philadelphia, man. It's Philadelphia.
I know.
I do a radio show in Philadelphia, and I'll get on the show, and they'll go, "Oh my God, and he threw this, and it was terrible." That you won 37-6. What do you complain? No, but he did. They always take the. I think it's a legitimate question, because Mr. Lurie, who has a track record, it's a simple question: can Sirianni be the guy along with Howie Roseman? He's not going anywhere. He's Jeffrey Lurie's guy, but you got to question all the ends of that. And I think sometimes the owners will look at this and go, well, can Sirianni, can he battle through what it will be from day one? People going, he shouldn't be here. And all the things that you've got to do, that negativity that comes with it, particularly like a city like Philadelphia, we'll see. Maybe he'll just decide, you know what, the baggage that we're carrying in, maybe we just need to go a new direction.
All right. Want to ask you a little bit about the pressure for Lamar Jackson and Baltimore. I mean, they're facing a team with house money. I know they won their division, the Houston Texans, but they have a rookie head coach. They have a rookie quarterback. Here they are in the playoffs. They blow the Browns out of the gym in the opening round of the postseason, and now here they come. Look, for everything that Lamar went through with his contract and not even traveling to Cincinnati for the playoff game last year and all the detractors and so on and so forth, he's had a phenomenal year. He'll probably be the MVP. But he's yet to make a big, deep run into the postseason. You think there's a lot of pressure there in Baltimore for this one?
I don't think he feels that pressure, but that pressure is there. And whether he's conscious of it or not. And the thing is, he's going to face now, in Baltimore, the number 1 seed, deservedly so, best team in the AFC. It all's going to go through Baltimore. They're going to face a couple quarterbacks now. C.J. Stroud's been spectacular, and that's the kid that says, "Hey, I'm just playing ball." No one expects us to. He's going to see either Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes in the next round if they get past the Texans. And so that's really what it comes down to, because those are pretty good quarterbacks too. So can he keep up with them? Because they're going to come in and have some production, all but in Baltimore. And so I think there's some pressure there. And I think particularly if those teams come in and start to move the ball a little bit and show some success, that he's going to feel like he needs to keep up. And does that force him into doing some things? And who knows? We'll see. They're a talented offense. They got receivers down the field. He's going to continue to run it. You got to believe they're going to play well and win at home. But they're going to face a couple quarterbacks here that could make it interesting.
A couple of quick things on the coaching carousel real quick. Bill Belichick, the Falcons announced it late last night that he had actually been in town to interview for their head coaching vacancy yesterday. The Falcons have some things you really like, but they don't have a quarterback. And the one knock on Belichick, fairly or unfairly, has been that, he won a ton of games and a ton of Super Bowls when he had Tom Brady. What did he do without Tom Brady? I would imagine for any coach, and I would imagine a number of teams are going to interview Belichick. If you were him and all things being equal, the money, control, whatever it is you want, where's the spot? Are the Chargers the spot?
Anywhere that's got the quarterback. Herbert, yeah. Dak Prescott, yeah. And you're right, Bill's 72 years old. And do I want to go and now find a young quarterback and develop that as it goes along, live through the normal ups and downs that you have to? If I'm Bill Belichick, and Bill's smart, and Bill knows, with a good quarterback, I'm okay. With a bad quarterback, I'm not okay. Bill knows that. And so going where there is an established quarterback, I think would be huge, particularly because of the time frame. Dallas obviously would make a fit, although that one would be interesting because that would be an interesting marriage. Because at the end of the day, Bill Belichick and Jerry Jones and the things Jerry Jones like to do, Bill's going to go, no, I'm not going to meet with you every Monday for 3 hours and explain what we just did. That's why I don't think it's a fit in Atlanta as well. Arthur Blank very much wants to go through a certain process. Bill Belichick, I don't do that. That's not the way I do it. So it's going to have to be the right fit. San Diego with that quarterback and where you'd be in absolute complete control because Bill's not going anywhere. He doesn't have absolute and complete control. He's not going to have that in Dallas. He would in with the Chargers.
All right, the last team I want to ask you about, because I tell you, you watch them and it's a roller coaster ride, man, a lot like the emotions of their head coach. The Detroit Lions, they're getting another game at home. And then all of a sudden, maybe they have to go on the road and play the 49ers. If the 49ers were to get upset, they'd have to play Green Bay for a third time. Of course, they got to beat Tampa Bay first. I think for the first time all year long, Brian, I think the Lions have a fighting chance here.
Oh, they do. Jared Goff's playing brilliantly. They believe, and how great is it to see fine? I mean, we both know Detroit's kind of the black hole when it comes to football and coaches. Things just disappear in there. For them to be relevant and doing what they're doing, Dan Campbell's done a great job. The hard part for me, and this is just a personal bias, I was at the game they played against Baltimore. They just got their butts handed to them. And it wasn't just Lamar Jackson going off and doing things. They could do nothing against the Baltimore defense. Baltimore ran at will, and it wasn't just Lamar. So that's, for me, unfortunately, and that's just my personal because you look at the bigger picture and all the people are saying this is what Detroit do. Absolutely. But I was at that game and I saw that Detroit team and it's hard to get out of my mind.
Yeah, I get it. Brian, thank you for your time, my friend. Welcome back to the Buckeye State. We'll catch up soon. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
All right, buddy. Brian Billack, kind enough to join us. Always a pleasure to have him and his insight. And look, the Belichick thing, and we weren't going to get into that. I want to get into, though, first of all, and I wanted to ask him, and I failed and I drew a blank until he just said goodbye. You were not happy at all with Mike Tomlin after the game yesterday.
Oh, it wasn't.
Now, here's it. Did he bring it up, Reed?
He did bring it up.
Did he bring it up?
He did, and then he persisted to ask you the same question. He was pestering. He's like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about this?"
That's right. I mean, I saw where some people on X last night got all wound up about Mike Tomlin walking out of the press conference. I mean, in my opinion, that's just ridiculous for people to get wound up. Here's a guy who's poured his heart and soul to get his team ready for a playoff game. If you didn't see it, let me back up here a second. Now, according to a couple of other people who were already in the room, and if you listen, they're like, anybody else have any other questions? So this woman, whoever it is that asked a question, you'll hear her voice vaguely in the background. Anybody in the room had a chance at any point in time to ask him this question before it came to the point where the Steelers PR guy says, okay, is that it? So Tomlin's been standing there answering questions for however long he's been there. It's freezing cold. His team just lost in the postseason. I'm not making excuses for the man. He doesn't need me making excuses for him. He's his own man, and there's a lot to be proud of if you're Mike Tomlin, as a man and as a coach. And then all of a sudden, after they say, hey, anybody else, according to those who were in the room, he was getting ready to just turn around and walk off the stage. But then the female let it roll, Casey.
Anyone? Mike, you have a year left on your contract.
Okay, that was that. So she starts into, he hears the line, he turns around, walks out. There were people that were, calling him all kinds of names on X last night. Casey, you were all wound up about it.
I wasn't all wound up.
You were wound up about it. You asked me about it 3 different ways. And I just said, look, coaches are allowed, players are allowed. That's why they have that cooling off period. And the NFL, it's not long enough for the coaches because of the it's not like some baseball player. They play 162 games, and they duck the media after a game because they committed an error or a base running mistake. These coaches, this is a microscope, 24/7, 7 days a week. And now you're in the playoffs, and that amps up even higher and higher. And less than 10 minutes after a game, you're going to walk in and, well, your offense stunk, and coach, your defense stunk, and your punter stinks, and and all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, are you getting fired? He didn't want to answer it.
But that wasn't how she approached the question. She asked, you have 1 year left on your contract, and then he just walked away.
Where do you think she's going with that, Casey? That he's going to get an extension after just getting beat again in the playoffs?
Maybe.
Casey.
But Tom, he ducked the media after a game where he got humiliated once again in the playoffs. One and done, bounce. This is a question that was deserved to be answered.
Okay, well,
because
do you not think that this week he went on and on and on and on answering this question during the week? He had been asked it at the press conferences every single day all week. In fact, he gave an extremely elaborate answer about the whole thing. About, this guy was in 9th grade. That guy was in 7th grade. This guy was a junior in high school when all this was going on. These players, they have nothing to do with this. This is on me. He said, this is my baggage. He took all that on himself. So he's answered all that nonsense. Can't you give him a little bit of grace, Casey? Guys like you, and I could name some other names out there,
for someone
beating him down,
that criticizes the Cincinnati media for not answering or not asking the hard questions. I just find this hard to believe that you're taking the coach's side on this one. This is a question that he deserves, that deserves an answer, especially after a tough game.
I just think you have to remember, these are human beings. Okay, I'm all for my issue with the Cincinnati press, or with generally most of the press across the country is they don't ask the tough question on Monday. That's my issue. Zach Taylor's press conferences, good Lord, that's like falling asleep on a cloud. That's my issue.
Tom,
not right after the game. Now, if you want to ask him about a decision made during the game, I'm okay with that. No problem. Hey, 3rd and 2. You throw the jump ball in the corner of the end zone. Isn't there a higher percentage play right there to keep the drive alive? All of that, all on the table. But in that moment, to ask him about his future and remaining as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, he can't answer the question anyway. That's somebody else's decision. That's Mr. Rooney's decision. What's he going to say? I hope I'm back next year. I got 1 year left on a contract. What's he going to say?
So do you disagree with the question being asked, period? Like you don't like her asking that
No,
question?
I have no problem with her answering the question at all, just like I have no problem with him not answering the question.
Well, then, shouldn't there be at least a little due diligence of, a formality of, no comment, and then walks off? walking off seems a little disrespectful for a question.
That's fair.
For a question that feels decently important. Like, it's not like it was a way out of left field question. It's a question that reporters should be asking. Maybe not at that time, but it's a question worth asking.
No. Again, I don't have any problem whatsoever of her asking that question. None. And I will concede to you on that 100%. As one human being to another human being, he could have just looked at her and politely said, I'd rather not get into all that right now. I think that's probably the way it should have been handled. But I am giving him a little bit of rope. I don't know the background of that reporter with him. This could be something that goes on literally every time he steps to the press conference. Or it might be somebody who's from Buffalo. I have no idea who it was. It doesn't matter who it was. But, yeah, I mean, he could have just said, hey, look, this is not the time or the place.
I think that's where people have the problem.
All right, fair enough.
And that's fair. But if you watch the post-game or if you watch any of the post-game stuff with the Eagles yesterday, Jason Kelce, and maybe it's a little bit different because he's a player, not the head coach. But yesterday, after the game, he went to his locker, and a reporter went up to him and tried to ask him about the same thing. Are you going to retire? And he said, not today, guys, and he walked away.
Yep.
It's the same thing. And he didn't receive any backlash. It's just the same thing. I agree with Tom on this. If Tomlin doesn't want to answer about his future right there after a crushing loss in the playoffs, I don't think he should have to. I will say Brandon Staley, after he was humiliated against the Raiders in what would be his last game as a Charger, every single question in that post game press conference was, "Why are you here? Do you deserve to be here?" He stood up there and he took it like a champ, and he answered every question. So there's room for both sides here.
That's why I think maybe where we're not agreeing with here is I feel like it deserved to be asked then and there because of his history. Yes. He has been one and done in the playoffs multiple times
Since
now in a row.
Yep. Right.
That's eventually it's got to stop.
Well,
eventually it's got to stop. So you got to answer the tough questions when they're asked.
Well, and like Jolly points out, who was part of the Fox crew over the weekend and the game that they have. What game did they have again?
I'll pull it up. I don't know. I'm sure he could tell it fast.
I'm drawing a blank. Why? How am I drawing a blank? It has to be an NFC game. Did they do No, they didn't do the Lions game.
I had to guess, they'd probably take the 49ers.
No, they'll have that game this weekend. But I'm just trying to think what game they had the other day. Who else played in the NFC this weekend?
They probably had the Cowboys game, right?
They had the Cowboys game. Thank you. But like Jolly points out, it is the most talked about topic, without a doubt. And we had Mike DeFabo here from The Athletic. He's been on a couple of times in recent weeks here on Off the Bench. And he has been talking about it at length, that this is, so Tomlin knows the question is coming. He knows it's coming. It's perfectly normal for that woman or a man to ask that question of Tomlin in that situation. No problem whatsoever. He's a big guy and understands the real world, he being Tomlin. He gets it. He's been around the block 9 or 10 times now. But, yeah, I wish he would have just said, hey, look, now's not the time. We'll get into this tomorrow. We have a press conference. That's fine. And maybe he will answer it today. I'm sure they're having a press conference of some kind today. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't suspect, though, that he's getting run.
I don't see Mike Tomlin losing his job.
There are a lot of people that think it could happen.
If he loses his job, that would mean in the coaching market, there is Bill Belichick, 6 Super Bowls. Mike Tomlin, a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Pete Carroll, a Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh, NFC champion.
Maybe Mike McCarthy.
Super Bowl champion. Maybe Nick Siriani, NFC champion.
Yep.
I don't think it's too far of a stretch. Already, if Mike Tomlin doesn't get fired, which I don't think he will, but if he is, certainly, that this is the greatest
coaching carousel.
Yeah, this has the most coaching talent that we've ever seen out there.
Yep.
And it's really been a snowball effect of hires like the Sean McVays and the Kyle Shanahans of the world, of where everyone wants these young, hip coaches, the Mike McDaniels, that are winning a lot of games, and now they look at their coach and like, hey, we got this defensive guy that's been here for 15 years, and things have kind of mellowed out here recently, and for like it or not, that's why these coaches are losing their jobs.
I'm actually pretty comfortable in saying that this probably is one of the greatest we've seen in
Correct.
our
Even
lifetime.
if Mike Tomlin doesn't lose his job.
Right.
Yeah, there's no way there's ever been an offseason where you had this many guys with this many Super Bowl titles under their collective belts. There's no way that has been the case in any other single offseason. Just Belichick having 6 alone.
Right.
Like you just mentioned, Carroll. Conceivably, remote albeit, McCarthy or Tomlin. Not even to mention Nick Saban's gone. I mean, in the collegiate ranks. But it really is amazing. It really is truly amazing.
So to put a bow on this, do you think that Pittsburgh will move on from Mike Tomlin? Because personally, I can't see
No,
it.
I do not.
I
That's
can't
not
see
the MO of the Rooney family. They've had 3 coaches there in the last, 50 years?
it. Correct.
Yeah, there's no way they're firing him.
At what point do you think, and we kind of had it with Marvin, but at some point, just a winning record doesn't qualify you to keep your job. Eventually, you have to act on it, and you have to advance in the postseason.
Yep.
He hasn't done that in quite some time. When does that run tired?
That's a good question.
Because we are,
What do you
almost
think?
20 years. We're 20 years. In my opinion, they are at the line where it's time to part ways. And maybe it's because they don't have a quarterback right now.
Mm-hmm.
They can start fresh. Now would be a perfect time to do it. He gets his swan song. He ends with, what did he get? 10 wins again this year?
Yep.
So he ends with a winning record again, makes the postseason. And you can say farewell to Mike Tomlin. I think he's had a phenomenal career. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. To never have a losing season in 17 seasons,
Right, that is
preposterous.
impressive. That is impressive.
Absolutely preposterous. But if, as a franchise, as an organization, I would assume they would look to move on here. That's what I would want if I was a Steelers fan. That's what I would want. Pretty much if I was anywhere near Pittsburgh. Get rid of Tomlin. He's had a great run, but it's time to move on.
And to add on to the Mike Tomlin stuff, he's a defensive guy, right? Their last 4 postseason games, they gave up 45 points to Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ugh.
They gave up 45 points to Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. They gave up 42 points to the Kansas City Chiefs. They gave up 35 points to the Buffalo Bills. So when you're not even doing your side of the ball well, when the games matter, it might be time. I don't think they'll get rid of him, but it's certainly with as many good coaches there are out there, this coaching carousel, it certainly seems a decent time to start looking around.
I don't even think that Mike Tomlin presser was the worst presser they had yesterday. I sent one to Casey, and it was George Pickens. And talk about a guy, again, maybe he's a nice guy. Maybe he's the nicest guy in the world. But he comes across like he's not that. He comes across like he's a child. And yesterday after the loss, instead of taking ownership for their loss, Tom, he decided to blame the referees. His first response is what happened today. He said, refs. That's the only thing on my mind.
Yep.
This is a clip from the press conference, or from his interview.
I just kind of feel stuck on this game right now with the refs. refs, yeah, that's the only thing that's really in my mind when it's, when it's late. You said, when I can see, contact down the field, go ball, pushing, no call, thinking, he's low hip, never diving for the ball, we both reach, he never grabbed me, just make a play on the ball. But when you labor grab me, fourth down, so is it just that one or is it that was third down, fourth down, a pivotal down on that specific drive. Beginning of the fourth, like 12 minutes ago, we get that right there. It's 24-2. They ain't even scored yet. Get that right there, 24-24. But you're not gonna win a game when you gotta let the refs in. Buffalo Bills. That's really what I feel like happened to us today. To be honest, what do you think we're gonna do?
I don't know how you walk away from a 2-touchdown loss and really a 3-score loss. They preposterous shank of a field goal in the last minute of that game. I don't know how you walk away from that and say that was the refs. That's not what I saw. Mason Rudolph clearly is not a great quarterback. The run game was shut down, and the Bills looked dynamite. You allowed a 6'4" quarterback to run 55 yards for a touchdown. He did a yabba-dabba-doo kind of maneuver to out juke this.
Well, that's old school there, yabba dabba doo. Do you know what that's from?
That's from the Flintstones.
Thank you.
Hanna-Barbera.
He did a yabba dabba doo kind of juke to juke out the Pittsburgh defense. If you're going to allow that I can't really help you. That's not the referees.
I would have loved if one of the journalists there said, when he's going on and on about how it's the refs, be like, did the refs fumble that ball in the first quarter? Because George Pickens fumbled the ball, which led to a 14-0 score. And on top of that, you talk about refs, they had the Bills challenged a call on the field.
Yep.
That I don't know how in the hell it didn't get overturned.
That was Freiermuth fumble, I think.
Right. Freiermuth fumbled the ball.
I think he was out of bounds. That's why, right?
That's what they said.
That's what they said. But like every camera angle that we saw, it looked clear as day. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, George Pickens fumbled the ball in the first quarter, which led to 14-0.
Yeah. So
somebody put out on X yesterday, which I thought was interesting, and I don't have it in front of me, but they put out, because you may have seen, that Allen slides late in the game, pow, hit, right, and flag, here it comes.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody put out the highest percentages of quarterbacks who get that call of late hit, sliding. Did you guys see this?
No.
It was really, really interesting. Now, your natural inclination, mine would be, well, it's got to be the guys who run all the time. Right?
Yeah.
Because they expose themselves to that hit.
Right.
Well, Allen was number one on the list, so that makes sense. What was I found very, very interesting is Mahomes was only about maybe 7th or 8th on that list. At the very bottom of the list, both Joe Burrow, not a huge surprise, although he runs a little more than people think he does. At least he did the last couple of years till this year.
Agree.
And the one that was staggering to me was Lamar Jackson. He never gets that call.
Wow. That is staggering.
Yeah.
And it goes into what you were alluding to is like these guys that run put their bodies at risk.
Yeah.
The refs aren't as likely to pull the flag out.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. I can't remember who put it out, and I would have given him a credit, but I was just flipping through it, and I went, wow, that's really – it happened right after that play was made last night. All right, let's get to a timeout. When we come back, I just want to get your rough sketch, because we're going to get out of here about 15 minutes early today. I got to get to a doctor's appointment, routine checkup, but I got to get there in time.
You all good? You good?
Oh, man, are you kidding? Come on.
You look great.
Just getting ready to hit the top of my game at 60. Sagging a little, could use a little Botox, could use a little, pull some of this out of here, you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Other than that, nothing a beer and a schmag can't handle.
That's right, baby.
All right, so I want to see your rough sketch of these games over the weekend. Which game are you most looking forward to?
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, and I'm going to take out the Kansas City Buffalo game. Let's just take that one out. Okay, because that's getting all the pub, and and rightfully so. Right, so. Sunday night prime time, they're getting it. But of the other three, which one do you kind of say to yourself, "Nah, man, I'm really looking forward to checking that game out"? And we're going to get into some college basketball because we've got the fighting UC Bearcats tonight. The fighting Elliott Rearings.
That's right. And the fighting Mouses.
The fighting, that's right.
The fighting
The
Dana
fighting
Gardens.
Green Mouses tonight.
Mice.
The mice.
Mouses. Mouses.
That's exactly right. All right, Casey, take it away, big boy. All you.
All
Here
right.
we go.
The Bearcat Report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
productivity.
Productivity.
That's right. Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. Pahhni water.
Pahhni.
Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pahhni Water at PAHHNI water.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. Get your coffee from UDF, technology solutions from Encore, and drink lots of Pahhni water.
Guys, thank you so much for being here every single day. We love you all so very much. If you aren't already, we would love if you hit that subscribe button. Also, you see a little thumbs up? Looks like this? Looks like this? Click it. Click it. it really helps us grow. It really does. Today, after the show, about 11 o'clock, there will be an exclusive interview from Chatterbox Red, so Nick Kirby's happy to bring that to you guys. Tomorrow, we will have box lunch after the show, but these are all just some housekeeping things where we're getting to the end. There's no more Chatterbox Clicker, no more Chatterbox Bengals. We'll revamp Chatterbox Bengals once we kind of get into the free agency, once we get into the offseason, all those things. Great. And I just want to say, we appreciate you guys being here.
Let me ask you guys this, not to change the subject, and Reed knows I'm bad at transitions.
Very good at change.
AFC North, I was thinking about this last night. AFC North by far was the best division in football this year, bar none.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that, there seems to be a lack of postseason success with 3 of the 4 teams.
Well, that's what I
and I think if you want to say, and again, it's a very tough division, one of the best in football. But do you think we overrate the AFC North? Because we get to the Steelers, they give a winning record every single season. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a great running game. The whole team's blah, boom, first-round exit. You look at the Browns. And again, I say this with love and respect, but they're perennial losers. That's a franchise that'll never see any kind of joy or happiness or success. That's a failed franchise. You look around, is this not a fraudulent division, but is this an overrated division, overhyped? Casey?
I do think that the AFC North as a whole has a bit of a problem because of their philosophy and their roster construction. Hard-nosed, wanting to smash mouth, run the football down your throat. And I think it catches up after this long the seasons are only getting longer. It's only getting harder. You only get one team with a bye week, in the playoffs. So it's much harder to continue that style of play because you're just getting more battered, bruised, banged up throughout the season. So I think it has something to do with that, but I don't think they're overrated. I think they're good. It's just when it comes to the playoffs, anything can happen. It's just kind of like baseball. You don't once you're in, you don't know what's going to happen.
If you look at the postseason, and this is a fair question, because if the Ravens get bounced this week, you can certainly start having that conversation.
100%.
I mean, that'll be a very prominent question. It's almost reminiscent of like the Big Ten in college basketball.
Yeah.
Every year we go into the tournament thinking the Big Ten is fantastic. They got 10 teams in. And then what happens every single year? The top teams get knocked off early. The mid-tier teams don't make a run. I mean, it happens every single year. So it's very similar to that with the AFC North. If you look at the wild card weekend, almost across the board, whoever had the better quarterback and whoever was kind of the finesse team won, right?
Yeah.
You go to the first game, Texans. C.J. Stroud's a better quarterback than Joe Flacco. They like to throw the ball a lot more than the Browns do. All right, Texans win. Both the Dolphins and the Chiefs kind of aren't very hard-nosed teams, but the better quarterback won there in Patrick Mahomes versus Tua. I would argue, I know there's a very good argument for this, I would rather have Jordan Love than Dak Prescott at this point. And the team that's kind of hard-nosed, the Cowboys, they lost to a team that likes to sling the ball all over the field. Now, the one area that didn't win was the Detroit Lions. Certainly are a more hard-nosed football team than the Los Angeles Rams. Matt Stafford's a better quarterback than Jared Goff. That being said, the Rams covered, but they didn't win. Bills, better quarterback than Mason Rudolph. Now the final one is Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Jalen Hurts didn't look like a very competitive quarterback in the second half of the year. So, I mean, is it a thing of the AFC North with this, kind of mentality of, we're gonna be hard nosed, we're gonna run the ball, we're gonna be ground and pound. Does that not play in the postseason very much anymore? I don't know.
The Cincinnati Bengals have 5 playoff victories in their past 3 seasons. The Browns, the Ravens, and the Steelers, they have 6 since 2014. I don't know.
That's why when we had the question a couple weeks ago, you look at the Bengals going 1-5 in the AFC North, and a lot of Bengals fans look around and they go, well, why are we losing these games? And it's because these teams are a lot more physical than the Bengals. The Bengals are the finesse team of the North. All these other teams, very physical. Steelers, Ravens, Browns. And people go, well, I want the Bengals to be more like that. But then you start thinking about what succeeds in the postseason. And it is those teams that, spread it out. Look at it. The Chiefs won last year. When Tom Brady was winning in Tampa Bay, they threw 50 times a game. Matt Stafford and the Rams. Look at the last 3 Super Bowl winners. I don't know. It's. Are we going to continue to have to take our licks in the AFC North if we don't get to this ground and pound kind of style? Maybe. I would say the Bengals have won the AFC North the last 2 last 3 years. But I like the way that the style of play that the Bengals have, because it lends itself to more success in the postseason.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's like anything else. There's got to be a happy medium there somewhere. I mean, you have to be able to line up and smash somebody in the face when you're 3rd and 2.
Yeah.
You're 4th and 1.
You're right.
You got to be able to do it. Philadelphia did it last year. Even the Chiefs last year, they ran the ball very well in the postseason last year. And they'll line up in a 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2. And it seems like they get it every single time. Green Bay the other day. I mean, Aaron Jones.
Yeah,
he's averaging 5.5 yards a carry.
That's right.
So, and look, as flashy as Christian McCaffrey is, the bottom line is that cat still ran for, 1,200 or 1,300 yards this year.
That's right.
Right? Okay, so, there are teams out there that are still playing. Well, they'll turn around and hand it off.
The best two teams in the league.
And you got to have a nice blend. You got to be able to do a little bit of both. You're going to lean more with the Bengals to being a more pass-happy offense. Clearly with Burrow, Chase, Higgins. We'll see if that changes moving forward into next year.
Even the Bills.
Even the Bills
on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 3rd and 2. You think they're having Dawson Knox or Dalton Kincaid out there throwing passes on end arounds?
No.
You have Josh Allen.
I was going to say they have a 6'5", 250
That's fine.
quarterback.
Well, Joe Burrow's 6'3" and weighs 200 and something. I know he's not Josh Allen, but he ain't Baker Mayfield.
Josh Allen's not afraid to take a body up the middle. And he's going to go up there, and if he doesn't get it on the 3rd and 2, on 4th and 1, he's going to go right back at it. And I think that is an area that the Bengals miss on a little bit.
And the Bills this year, the last 7 weeks of the season, have been the number 1 rushing team in the league.
Yeah.
Last 7 weeks of the season.
They
fired their offensive coordinator.
Right. They
right.
ran the ball.
And the Steelers did the same darn thing.
Yep.
They had 2 backup quarterbacks, Trubisky, then they go to Rudolph. They turn around and realize, oh, that's right. We have Najee Harris on this team. Oh, that's right. We've got Waylon on this team.
If the Ravens, I think the question that needs to be asked, and this is what started this whole debate, is if the Ravens lose this weekend, Tom, is it more than fair to assume that the AFC North is a bit overrated? Because
it's more than, of course it is.
Right.
Yeah, if they get drilled, there's no doubt. If they lose, period, of course it is. They're at home. They got experience at every single position over these young.
Favorites.
They have experience in the coaching ranks, everything over the Texans. Now, I asked before we left. And by the way, Brian, I mean, I appreciate that you love baseball. I love baseball. But you bring this up 3-4 times a week. Right now, it's the NFL playoffs. You've got coaches like Belichick and Carroll and all of these guys that are out there getting interviewed. And you want us to talk about baseball? What exactly, if we talked about anything involved with baseball right now, what in the hell would you talk about?
Tom,
I'm being serious about this. What would you talk about? Are we going to preview the National League West today? Are we going to talk about Jonathan India going to the outfield again? Are we going to talk about the $50-something million or whatever it is the Reds will add to their payroll this year? Yeah, we could do that, but I think we just did it.
Tom, don't
we
get
do it
roped
every
in.
week when my dad comes on this show.
Don't get roped in. Last week you did this. You said why would we talk about baseball? All this stuff's going on, and we ended up talking about Joey Votto for 30 minutes. So we're not getting roped in this week. We're not doing it.
Do you think David Bell's a good manager?
I'm not starting on this. I'm not starting on this.
Favorite
and now
game
Mouse Cop, here he goes. More baseball talk. Here we go. He
needs more Xavier talk.
We'll get to Xavier. Tom, what's your favorite game of the divisional round?
No doubt about it for me. It's Ravens v. Texans.
Did you hear the spread on that one?
No.
You know what it is? Yeah, I'm going to tell it to you, and I want to hear your reaction. Give me a guess of what you think the spread should be. Ravens are at home against the Texans.
I would say 5.5.
They have it at 9.5. They say it's going to be a 10-point game.
Wow. Well, they've been the best team.
Mm-hmm.
They've been the best team. There's no doubt about that. They are, without a doubt, right now, the best team in the National Football League.
Yeah, I think, man, when I look at this, everyone's going to call to. I mean, the Texans and the Packers both just beat good teams, 11, 12-win teams by 3+ scores. Texans beat the Browns by 30 points. Packers really beat the Cowboys 27-0. That's when that game kind of, in the second half, was what it was. And they go into the divisional round as 10-point underdogs.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. It makes you want, like, I personally, as a gambler, I think I'm gonna have to take the Ravens and the 49ers because those spreads don't make any sense whatsoever. But I mean, is it just they don't see how a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback can go on the road against one of the best coaches in the game in the surefire MVP? I think that's a good game, Tom. I agree with you, but I just can't see a world in which the Ravens fall to the Texans.
Now, these two teams played in week 1. That's 8 gazillion years
Doesn't
ago.
count.
Yeah,
It's a
8
completely different
gazillion.
season,
But
in all
it should
seriousness.
be noted, just a couple of little things there, is that it was the most sacks Lamar Jackson had in any game this season.
Yep.
He got sacked 4 times. He had his 3rd lowest passer rating of the year, his 2nd lowest yardage total in what is, without a doubt, an MVP season for him. So, look, that was C.J. Stroud's first ever game, the whole 9 yards. I mean, that's 2 lifetimes ago, I'm sure it feels like, for everybody involved with these two teams. But if nothing else, if you're D'Amico Ryans, you can walk in the door and you can say, fellas, we've played these guys already. I mean, it's not like the first time we're getting a look at the best team in the NFL. We've at least seen them. May not mean anything. What game you looking for?
Well, I very excited for Houston, Baltimore, but to be honest, Tampa and the Detroit Lions really are my favorite game of the weekend because one of those two teams, Tampa or the Lions, are going to be in the National Championship,
National Football Conference.
Yeah, National Football Conference Championship. The NFC Championship, which to me, very intriguing. Both would be fantastic storylines. Jared Goff and the Lions just, breaking that playoff drought that they've had for over 30 years, being able to possibly make it to the championship, and then Baker Mayfield to the championship just seems like electric storyline written NFL script stuff for me. So that's my favorite game of the weekend. But I love Houston at Ravens just because I have that take that whoever won the Browns-Houston game was going to make it to the championship. So I expect Houston to make it competitive against the Ravens. And they played the Ravens pretty good week 1. They sacked Lamar like 5 times or something like that, really made him uncomfortable. And that was CJ's first game of his career. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that this is going to be a good weekend for NFL playoffs for sure.
Anybody else?
My game is that game, but just so I don't copy it, I do like the Eagles 49ers. I do agree with Reed that the spread is so weird that I do
Packers 49ers.
Sorry, what did I say?
Eagles.
Eagles,
All right.
sorry. Packers 49ers. Both green. I do think what Reed said is true. The spread is fishy. I don't think either spread should be 10 points.
I agree. Which makes me want to bet it.
And I do like, by the way, I am going to take the Texans and C.J. Stroud plus 9.5 in that game. I am taking the 49ers in this game just because I think the 49ers are due for a first game playoff thumping of the Green Bay Packers. But saying that, if Jordan Love is able to upset the 49ers, I don't know. We start talking about that conversation yesterday, where when do we start paying Jordan Love, because that would be a massive win in what should be a rebuilding year for the Packers. Nobody expected the Packers to win 9 games, and I know it's one of the worst divisions in football in the NFC North. I get that. But saying that, if Jordan Love's able to come out there, you still have Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has rushed for over 100 yards like 5 of his last 7 games. Guy's a tank. If they're able to pull off this upset, you have a massive storyline on your hand, because then the NFC finally gets another decent quarterback over there, and it's not just the AFC quarterbacks versus like 3 NFC quarterbacks. It's another good quarterback. So I do like that game a lot.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that thing. We just talked about the AFC North and is it a bit overrated? And you're like, the NFC North's terrible, and they had two playoff winners this week. Now once again, that's in a much less competitive NFC, but the Lions and the Packers both did win their games. I'm on Casey's side. I think that the most interesting game outside of, and you said we couldn't do the Chiefs-Bills game.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the marquee game of the weekend. I thought it was funny that they kind of just assumed that the Steelers were going to lose because when they scheduled all the games, they're just like, hey, we're going to put this Chiefs game Sunday night. Maybe they'll play the Steelers. Maybe they'll play the whoever. But we'll just have it there just in case because they knew the Steelers weren't going to win. Sorry, Lindsay. But, yeah, I think it's the Lions Bucks, and it's part of the reason that Casey said. To think 2 weeks ago, let alone 12 weeks ago, that we'd be sitting here that either the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Detroit Lions will be going to the NFC Championship game is crazy to think about. It's crazy. And all the storylines, I mean, the fact that the Lions get another home game, the fact that Baker Mayfield, who was on his last leg in the NFL, people don't remember that. Before the year, people were saying, Baker should probably just hang him up. He'd be pretty good on TV. He should hang him up. And here he is commanding a 32-9 win over the NFC champions from a year ago. And for what it's worth, I think the Lions are going to win this game. But it truly is, out of two teams that don't have a whole lot of hype around them, it could be the best game of the weekend. And that is just it's going to be a lot of fun. Dan Campbell and this roaring Detroit Lions fan base for a chance to get to the NFC Championship against little 5'10" Baker Mayfield, who once again is on his last leg in the NFL, or was. Now he's going to get an extension. I as someone who hated Baker Mayfield when he was with the Cleveland Browns, I love that guy now. He's a guy, I mean, all the stories that they were telling about how he kept the locker room together. He's the reason that they're in because he still fights. He still makes a lot of mistakes if you watch him play. But he's fun to watch. He's a fiery fella.
There's no doubt about that.
Whose season is a bigger shock to you guys, the Packers or the Tampa Bay Bucks? Who coming in right now? You would say both of these teams are or one of these teams is going to be in the divisional round. Who would you have said would have a chance to get there, and who wouldn't have even a glimmer of a hope?
I would have said probably it would be more unlikely or less likely that the Packers were going to be there because, you lose a Hall of Fame talent like Aaron Rodgers, you get rid of him, and you're going to play this guy that's never played in the league before. He's been in the league for 3 years, and he's going to be your starting guy, and he's not only going to look like the best quarterback in the NFL over the last 7 weeks, but he's going to beat a Dallas Cowboys team at home that hadn't lost a game at home in 16 games and thump them. Yeah, that's way more surprising. Over, like, the NFC South has – honestly, the Bucs have made the postseason the last 3 years. Now, granted, that was with Tom Brady, but that's a pretty poor division, and I would have –
That's the key, is the division.
Right. I mean, they've won it now 4 straight years.
Yeah. I would think that would definitely be the answer. Everybody has different, and there's no right and there's no wrong answer on that. But certainly no one in their right mind thought that in the Final Four of the NFC when this season began that Tampa Bay and Green Bay would both be a part of the Final Four. With no Dallas, with no Philadelphia, among others. All right, let's shift gears now, Case.
Okay.
We got some high school basketball. Some college basketball tonight.
Well, let's
I say high school basketball because we've got people in our chat that want to talk about the GCL matchup between St. X and Moeller.
It's a big one. It's a big one, Tom.
Moeller will massacre that team. Go ahead.
Well, to put a bow on the wild card round, let's go through our picks. Let's go through how we did gambling, and then.
Okay. Well, we didn't actually gamble, but we just did picks.
Oh, well, some of us did.
Okay. Well, some of you did.
Yeah. Some of
All right,
you did.
let's let it roll. We start with there are a lot of these games. We got to get through them.
Yep, here we go.
All right, so, my bad.
That was a good one, Tom.
That's the only game I won, I think.
That was a good one, Tom. I'll say this. I did not bet this. I don't think I coincided because I went a perfect 6-0 against the spread in the wild card weekend, but I don't think my picks reflected that. I can't get over how awesome this is for the Cleveland Browns. Congratulations, Cleveland Browns, on your best season in recent memory. You guys earned it. Good job.
I believed in the Browns. I had hope for the Browns. They let me down. I can't even imagine being a Cleveland sports fan, having to endure the failure that is that franchise. Good luck to you. 2-time Coach of the Year. Kevin Stefanski led him to a slaughter in the first round to a rookie.
Wow.
So, good job, Kevin.
Casey, you went with the team that you constantly say stinks.
I did. I had a moment of weakness, and it backfired. It hurt that they, this was a moment of weakness for me. And
Just goes to show you, Case.
He backed his C.J. Strouds, Tom did, and he got the win. Unfortunately, he backed the Teal, too.
Which I still can't believe I did. I mean, I said to my son the other day, never mind. Go ahead. Move on.
Tom,
That's ridiculous.
All year long, we joke about the showing up in Teal. We do that joke every time we mention Miami Dolphins.
Yep.
And they go and play the Super Bowl
I
champs.
just thought they would cover. I didn't think they'd win. I thought they'd cover. I thought they'd show up. Well, and now all of a sudden they're talking yesterday about Tua's a guy for the long haul. All right.
Goodness.
All right. That's what Mike McDaniels and the general manager said yesterday. Well done, men. All right, what's next up?
We'll go to the Sunday game. Look at us. Tom, you said it yourself. You're never doing it again.
Tom.
You're never believing in the Dallas Cowboys.
No.
How can you do this? This is
I
back-to-back
thought
picks.
16-0 at home.
Well, back-to-back.
16-1 now.
16-0 at home. That's 16-1 now. That's
Talking
right.
about not showing up, Tom. This is back-to-back picks where your shtick is you openly hate both these franchises.
I think I said that the first game was the only game I think I got right. I think. I could be wrong on that. Go ahead.
You got the next one right according to the spread. I wrote the Fighting Chris Spielmans. You guys did cover. I got the winner right, but
Very
you
nice.
guys did cover.
Very nice.
Yeah, you
All
didn't
right.
bet any of your picks.
Okay.
You just bet against them.
I did. That's right. Well, I bet the Packers
bet
money
the
line.
Packers.
I bet the Packers money line. I think I bet the rest of these. All right, so we go to yesterday's game. Give me some. Look at that. Look at that, Tom.
Look at that, Tom.
Casey?
I mean, they were nervous.
Men of aluminum.
They
Men
were
of
nervous
aluminum.
at the fourth quarter when they made it a 7-point game. They were nervous, but it just didn't matter. They were never a good team, Tom.
Well, it was. If it's ever tough sledding with all that snow, they could have been sledding right on down the stairs of Highmark Stadium right into Mike Tomlin's end of his career. So the Buffalo Bills with the cover there, and then the final one. What are you talking about? I only didn't bet the first one.
Wow.
Elliot.
Reed had a big week.
Oh, I went 6-0 against the spread betting wise.
Who did I pick there? It looks
You
like,
got
looks
the
like an eagle
Eagles.
head. Looks like an eagle
You
head.
knew that they were frauds. What was up with that?
This game broke me because I thought the Eagles, despite being fraudulent, I thought they'd come out and show up one time. Clearly, that's not the case, and that franchise is now back down the toilet because I don't know what you do. Jalen Hurts looked lost. The offensive line looked disgusting. The defense wasn't there at all. How many chunk plays did they give up yesterday? How many 20-plus plays did they give up yesterday? 20-plus
Seemed like every time he turned around.
Every play. Cade Otton, the slowest guy in the field, had 90 yards, and he was getting chunk play after chunk play. That's a joke.
You know what was worse than the chunk plays was like it'd be 3rd and 3.
Yeah.
And they throw one out in the flat, and a cornerback would come up to make the tackle.
Yeah.
And they just slip on right by and get a gain of 12. Like every single time that would happen. Eagles.
In all seriousness, I would rather the Bengals miss the playoffs with a 9-8 record than have the Eagles start than the Bengals start 10-1, collapse down the stretch, and get blown out by the Bucs in the first round.
I agree with that.
Eagles defense looks
Tom,
like
why do you?
Eagles defense looked like it was full of Nick Scotts yesterday.
That would be terrible.
The whole team was Nick Scott. Nobody making a tackle.
Tom, can you imagine how insufferable this room full of orange and black stripes would be if we were 10-1? I would make a piece of wood getting ready for the Lombardi Trophy at my house if we started out 10-1.
I understand.
I get a tattoo, Tom.
And then just
I'd get a tattoo.
He'd get a championship tattoo when they're 10-1. We'd get it rocking right then and there. And then they win one game the rest of the year. Lose by 23 to Baker Mayfield.
I don't care. At least you have a chance if you get in. You have no chance sitting on your butt at home.
Baker Mayfield was getting ready to take a kindergarten teacher job. He was getting ready to tell stories to little kids. And here he is throwing for 400.
We're staying away from that.
Fair enough.
Staying away from the bait.
For right now. Good line by Jimmy in there, by the way, Jimmy Dolan. He said, I feel a lot better about St. X's chances of beating Moeller after watching Tom's picks. That's you're right. You're right. Okay. So, college basketball tonight.
Big one. Big one.
All right. You got the UC Bearcats. I saw where John Rothstein must be in town to cover this game tonight.
I saw that too.
Oh, he's not going to the big game?
And he made the comment. He said, hey, look, UC could easily be 3-0 in the Big 12 right now. But as we know, they're not. They won at BYU, shocking then the number, 12 team in the country, if I'm not mistaken. They come back home, back and forth, great game, but lose to Texas. They go down to Baylor. They're without Aziz, and they lose to the Battling Bears by 3, 62-59. Play good defense, just couldn't put it in the hoop. So here we go again tonight. I mean, now you're starting a whole new run, right? Wes Miller said this the other day after the game at Baylor. Now all of a sudden you got TCU, and we mentioned their last 2 games, they've beaten number 9 Oklahoma, number 2 Houston. I didn't think anybody beat Houston. I mean, I knew they'd lose in the Big 12, but I mean that's a killer team, right?
Yeah.
TCU, just beat them on Saturday. So then after that for UC, if I'm not mistaken, they play Oklahoma at home, and then they play at number 2 or number 3 Kansas, right?
Correct.
Okay, so here you are starting the whole cycle over again. You just got finished with 3 ranked teams, and now you got 3 more coming up. And, this is one of those where I agreed with you, Elliot, about, the way you feel about the team and the way they're playing and they're competing in the Big 12. Many wondered, would they be able to do that this year? They've proven they can compete and play with virtually anybody. But these 2 games this week, minimum, they have to go 1-1. Both of these games are at home to TCU and Oklahoma. They have to go minimum 1-1. And you know what? I'm not going to say they have to go 2-0 because you don't have to go 2-0. But if you've got to start making up wins on the back end of the schedule because of games you couldn't close out on the front end, it's what we talk about with the Bengals, it seems like, every year. And the Reds, for that matter, every year. They start slow, and then you're trying to play catch-up. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do. Mm-hmm. And so, and you don't know what injuries may occur. We pray that nobody gets hurt. But this is a big game for UC tonight.
It's massive, and it sucks that I think they're the hottest team in the Big 12 right now. So having them as our next opponent sucks. But I do agree with you, Tom. 1-1 is the minimum. I do think you can go 2-0. I think both these teams are beatable. I don't think Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I don't think Oklahoma is a true top 10 team. A true top 12 team. I do think TCU is. So this will be tough. I don't understand the spread fully. The spread, I think, is 3.5, 4 for the Bearcats tonight.
They're favored.
The Bearcats are, yeah. It's interesting. I will say we're going to need Aziz back. We do need a little bit of change-up pace down low defensively. It's still difficult defensively trying to guard the Big 12 big men. It's not the American anymore. It's not the American. So at this point, if you're able to have Aziz, you're able to put Jamil in there. I need Reynolds to be more confident offensively. He scored 6 points in the first 2 minutes, I think, or 5 minutes of that Baylor game, and then just didn't really contribute offensively the rest of the time. He did miss a lot of free throws, which again sucks. You know what they shot at the line against Baylor? Again, this is Wes Miller said free throws don't matter. Free throws weren't the reason they lose games. They shot 53% at the line again.
Not good.
So at some point, you have to do the basic things right. The turnovers were way down against Baylor, and the defense was incredible. We've had issues at various points defensively this season. They locked down one of the best teams in the nation. If you're able to continue that defensive efficiency tonight against TCU, you're going to win this game. You would also need Dan Skillings. If there was ever a chance for Dan Skillings, I thought Dan Skillings coming into this season was going to be our guy. He was going to be the scorer on this team. He dropped 24 against Baylor. If he's able to replicate half of that, give me 12. And I still think we win this game. Simas Lukosius can't go 1 for 10 again.
Yeah.
It can't happen. It's inexcusable. He's one of the more turnover-prone players on the roster as well, unfortunately. So if he cleans it up, again, I do think UC can win this game, and they can make a run. Reed and I were talking about it before the show. What would it take for UC to get in? And I really do think 8 wins. 8 wins in this conference gets you in the tournament.
I agree.
Assuming you don't SHIT the bed come the Big 12 tournament. But I do think if it starts tonight, I think you can go 2-0 here. And if you do, you would start 3-3. Again, I'm not going to assume a loss in Fog Allen, but let's just say I'm prepared for the loss.
You know, a lot of people are talking about, and you've talked about this, we've talked about this, the recent struggles for Day Thomas and how well at times Jizzle James has looked. Now, my understanding with James is the reason he's not playing more is because he doesn't guard. And that he's having a hard time guarding the opposing point guards in a league loaded with really good point guards. Now, whether or not that's 100% accurate or not, I don't know. But I think at least that's what I've heard as to one of the reasons he's not getting more and more playing time. Look, one thing they better make sure they do tonight, they better get back on defense. This is the number one fast break team scoring points in the country. Number one. They average 25 points per game, fast break points. The next closest team in the conference is around 17. So they don't have this monster big guy, they being TCU. They've got a bunch of guys anywhere from 6'3" to 6'8" that run like gazelles. And they get up and down the floor, and they've got a great coach. Jamie Dixon is a great basketball coach. I mean, he's not going to get mentioned up there with the monsters of the Bill Selfs of the world because he's never been in a program where you can win a national championship, to be honest with you. But the resources are there at TCU for them to try and start building this thing up. And the last 3 years, he's taken them to the NCAA tournament. He's an alum, so he's vested. He's all in. And so you can rest assured that TCU will come in ready to play. But I'm with you. This is a game UC should win this game at home.
Elliot gets mad at me because I ask, but I mean it when I was like, at what point do these close losses start piling up? Like if this is a game that I think I agree with you guys. They need to win. I don't want to hear if you lose on a last-second shot that, you competed once again, right? We're not going to do that.
Let's be real. Before this season, if you would have told me the first six games of the schedule we would have a chance at 3-3, I would have laughed at you. These are top 15 teams, all of them, and we beat one of them on the road. So I would say as of right now we're overachieving beyond belief. And that's with a 1-2 record. If you win tonight, you're right back on track.
I agree.
You asked me when do the moral victories stop counting? That's if we don't win games. We're 1-2. We've won. We've beaten a top 12 team on the road.
Okay.
So that's what I would say. If we lose tonight in blowout fashion, then sure, we'll start having your conversation.
What if they lose by 2 points again?
If we lose by 2 points, I'll have to see the free throw percentage. But if it's 50% again, I'll agree with you. But if it's not, whatever.
Tom, you know what the KenPom rankings are?
No. I know what they are. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you meant do I know who's ranked where?
Well, do you want to take a guess at where Cincinnati is ranked? Just take a shot in the dark.
I would say 15th.
They are 33rd.
33rd.
They're 33rd
okay.
in the country. You want to guess where Xavier is?
34th.
32nd. So, according to KenPom, think that they're better. They think that they're better than UC.
Well, they beat them.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, there's a difference in where you are in that deal.
Right. No doubt about it.
One single game.
No doubt about it.
Because the overall body of work for the season, UC has had a better team this year than Xavier.
We'll see.
I mean, their schedule is almost, not quite, almost as good. That will even itself out as this season goes on. Because the Big East, East outside of UConn, there's not much there. Creighton's a good team. They're not getting out of the Sweet 16.
Marquette's very good.
Marquette has been a lot of this. Marquette. A lot. Go look at their record. And their best player, Kolick's in a major slump. I like him a lot.
He played well yesterday against Nova.
I understand. But, I mean, Nova stinks. They stink. They're a 500 team. I mean, all these schools have their patsies outside of the league. Every school, except for Michigan State and North Carolina and Kentucky and Kansas. They play everybody anywhere, anytime. But most of these schools, Villanova is not any good. They're not. Providence, I mean, you watch them on any given night. Providence, Seton Hall. Patino's got them playing well at St. John's. But, I mean, DePaul. The Big East is not the Big 12.
No, it's not. It's not good.
Close.
But
Not even in the same stratosphere.
But to say that they've played similar schedules feels.
Well, I said not yet because they played Purdue, they played Houston, but UC's going to play Houston.
Xavier's strength of schedule.
UC's going to play Kansas.
Correct. No,
Okay.
it might by the
So
end
that's
of
why
the
I
year,
said when all's said and done, their schedules, UC is going to have a harder schedule when all's said and done.
which is why I hold that I think that the Musketeers will finish higher in the net as opposed to the Bearcats, because we'll see what happens. To this point in the season, Xavier's strength of schedule is fourth in the country.
That's right.
They played the fourth toughest schedule in the country, and according to Jimmy Dolan, UC's is right in the middle of the entire country at 164.
Yeah, and I mean, that has almost exclusively to do with what has happened out of conference. So we give it up to Xavier this year. They played Purdue, they played Houston, they played, who's the other big one I'm forgetting?
They played St. Mary's. They beat St. Mary's, which is normally a pretty good team.
But there's somebody else they played.
they played
UConn.
They played
UConn.
Yeah,
So I mean, you played 3 of the top 5 teams in the country.
UConn's the number 1 team in the country right now.
Yeah. When they played them, they were 4th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
But now UC is in a stretch where they're going to go minimum 6 consecutive games against teams ranked in the top 25. 6 straight. Xavier ain't in one of those stretches. They're playing Butler tonight.
Butler's better.
I know.
With Chad Motta.
I've acknowledged Butler is better. But they're not TCU. They're not Texas. Neither is Providence. They're not.
That's fair. Listen, the Big East is not as good as the Big 12. I don't think we're breaking any new ground when we say that. But the Big East is still, I would argue, might call me crazy, I think it's the second best conference in college basketball at this very moment.
No doubt about it.
I think it's better than the Big Ten.
SEC.
I think it's better than the SEC. I think it's better than both those. And I don't think in the ACC for that matter. I think it's the second best conference in college basketball at this very moment. But yes, Big 12 is the best. And you know what? I'm excited. Tom, you going to the TCU game tonight?
You know what? I'm waiting to find out. We have a good friend of ours who's been battling cancer, and we're hoping that we would be able to have dinner with him tonight. We were planning on going to the game because our daughter is still a student there. But we'll see. I don't know. We were planning on it, and now we're not so sure. That would be fun to go to. All right, meanwhile, there's Xavier, who we mentioned was without a doubt their best half of basketball this year. I mean, they scored, they defended, they shot the 3, they didn't turn the ball over, right? They rebounded.
Right.
Green had a good game. They had a lot of guys contribute. So, again, they have 2 games coming up this week against lesser opponents. Butler is better under Thad Matta, the old Xavier head coach, Chad Matta. And you got them coming to town, and then you got Georgetown coming to town. Now, if there's ever a team that wants to right the ship, and you really need to win both of these games, that's this week for the Musketeers.
Yeah, I mean Georgetown. I mean, with their new coach, they're better. They're better than they were, but they're still got miles to come. Butler is actually surprising. I thought when they hired Thad Matta that was a bad hire, and here in I believe in year 2 of Thad Matta, he's already turned this team into a pretty formidable bunch. I'll be in the arena tonight. I went last week against UConn. I mean, you look at Xavier, and yes, they lost to Oakland at home. Yes, they lost to Delaware at home. Those will haunt Xavier for the rest of the year. But outside of a pretty poor performance in Carneseca Arena against Rick Pitino's St. John's, this is a team that's played pretty good basketball recently. I mean, they blew out Seton Hall, who was just coming off a win against UConn. They blew out Providence, who had been playing good basketball. They take UConn down and, had a lead in the second half and had it a 3-point game in the final 10 seconds. They had not 1 but 2 game-winning attempts against Villanova. And I know I make fun of Elliott all the time for the moral victory, so I'm not going to hang a hat on losses, but this is a Xavier team that's sitting at 500, is certainly the best 500 team in the country. Certainly the best 500 team in the country. And like I keep pointing back to what Sean Miller said at Media Day, for the Big East Media Day. This is a team that is going to be a much different team in February and January than they are in November and December. And I think we're already seeing that. Now, I think that with just the youth and the inexperience, there's a lot of inconsistency. That's just the nature of not only young teams, but really every college basketball team. They're just inconsistent. And they've got some really nice pieces. Quincy Oliveri, Trey Green.
Yep.
These are guys that are going to be a focal point of Xavier, not just this year, but for years to come. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Tom. These are 2 wins that if you take care of Butler, you take care of Georgetown at home, you're then on a 3-game win streak, and you go to Omaha, Nebraska against a top 25 team, a top 20 team in Creighton, playing your best basketball of the year. These are 2 games they absolutely have to win.
Just checking something here in the Big East. You've got, we talked about UConn, and they're clearly the best team in the Big East. There is no doubt about that.
There's 3 ranked teams. Marquette and Creighton are both in the top 20. Marquette's 17, Creighton's 18.
Yeah.
St. John's and Villanova are probably in the tier behind those 3 teams. And I think St. John's is surprising a lot of people with how they're playing.
Well, I'm not surprised.
I think Seton Hall's a very good team. Seton Hall has been playing some good basketball. Don't be surprised if Seton Hall sneaks into the rankings at some point. But, yeah, I mean, the Big East, if you look at some metrics, have them as the second best conference in college basketball at this very moment. So, Xavier's played a really tough schedule.
They have.
They played the number 1 team in the country in UConn, played the number 2 team in the country in Purdue. They played the number 5 team in the country in Houston, and they're going to play UConn again on the road.
Seton Hall has been blasted this year by USC, who's a 500 team.
Bronny James.
They've been killed by Iowa. They got destroyed by Baylor on the road. They beat Monmouth by 9.
Yep.
Now they did beat UConn when UConn was number 1.
Right, they're 5-1 in the conference.
And they have beaten Marquette.
They're 5-1 in the conference. The only
Yes.
loss they have is to Xavier, a 20-point loss at Centos Arena. So, yeah, I mean they're 5-1 as we've established in one of the best college basketball
Yes.
conferences in the country.
Big 12 has 8 ranked teams in the top 25.
Well, I mean, it's like you look at it's why, sometimes I don't start getting wrapped up in a lot of these different kinds of rankings. Not only the top 25 rankings, but the Ken Pom stuff and all that other thing until you really get into the year a little bit more. It's like, what, you said 8 of them, right? Texas Tech now cracks the top 25, right?
Yep.
Okay, I mean, they're ranked 25th, and we brought up earlier. That's not necessarily a team that anybody wants to play. Iowa State beat Houston. That's not a team that anybody wants to play. I guess you could make that same argument for, like you were just saying, Seton Hall. They beat UConn, so nobody wants to play them, and they've only lost 1 game in the conference. So, there's some great basketball, but we got a long year. Now
They've got a great coach, too, is the guy that was at St. Peter's.
Yes, a big run
Kentucky.
last year.
Yep.
Yeah. Nick Kirby has a show on after us today.
Yep. So after this, there is going to be a Reds interview at 11:45 a.m. So right after this.
Is that a David Bell interview? I thought I read. Did Nick say that? He's in the chat today. Nick, is that a David Bell interview?
David Bell. Yep.
David Bell. So stay after the show. We got more content coming your way.
Yeah, like I said, we're wrapping this thing up here in a minute or two because I got to get off to an appointment, and we'll go right to David Bell is the interview. So
can I ask one question just about Xavier really quickly?
Sling it.
I'm not following Xavier as much as I probably should be. I've been following more of the Bearcats because we have our own Bearcat show, and it's just easier to follow that way. Regardless,
you're coming to the best source for Xavier knowledge right here.
So basically, these next two games, Butler and Georgetown, are must win. But is it safe to say that they probably should probably beat Creighton in that stretch as well? They should probably try to get more than 8 wins the rest of the way because they have 15 games left in the season.
If they want to get into the tournament, which seems like a far ways away.
Yes, it does.
Based off of how the early season went. The only way that you can counteract the losses to Delaware, the losses to Oakland, is by beating really good teams. Right. And luckily, playing in the Big East, you go next week, they go on the road to Creighton and UConn. So yeah, if they want to get in the tournament at some point, they've got to win those. I wouldn't throw them into the category of must wins.
And Creighton last year for Xavier was split, I believe.
Yes, we beat them at home. They beat us they beat us at their house. I was driving to my family makes a very funny joke about this. I was driving. We were going out to the AFC Championship game out at Kansas City when we played Creighton, and we got bludgeoned. And I'm losing my mind driving. And my family, who doesn't like that I gamble, I had money on Xavier. And they're just like, Reed, what is going on? Why are you losing your mind? And I'm like, we should be winning this game. He's like, my dad looks at me. He's like, how much money you got on this? And I lied. I looked him in the eye. I was like, only like $50. And he goes, you're losing your mind over $50? So now every time that we go to a Xavier game or do anything, or he knows I bet on a game, he's like, what, $50 again? Betting $50? Because I had much more money than $50 as I was driving on my way out to Kansas City and losing my mind as we lost by 20. So, brutal.
All the boys getting all fired up in here. Your guy Mouse Cop always looking to stir it up. You know, Everett about our Bearcat bias on the show. Dude, deal with it. That's the world we live in here in Cincinnati. They have 10 times the number of alumnus in this town and 12 times the following. That doesn't diminish anything that the Musketeers have accomplished. They've had one of the most remarkable runs of all college basketball programs in the United States of America. It's been unbelievable what they've done. And they should stick their chest out proudly. They've owned the Bearcats. But as far as coverage, airtime, et cetera, come on. You know it.
I can't disagree. That's fair.
And it's not beating. You can have it both ways. It's not beating Xavier down. I've said it 1,000 times. They've done a better job hiring head coaches than any school or professional franchise I have ever seen in my life. It was one after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next. Give them all the credit in the world. And we wish them well tonight.
The Bengals will
Sean Miller, we're going to get him on one of these days.
To wrap a point on that, the Bengals will always get more airtime than FC Cincinnati.
That's exactly right.
What a stray. What a stray.
Very much.
I'm a Muskies guy, but yeah, the Bengals are going to get more coverage than FC Cincinnati.
And right now, the Bengals are going to get more airtime than the Reds. Right now.
Right.
Now, the Reds have a chance to change that. They started to make us want to change it last year before they collapsed in August and September.
The Bengals will probably always get more airtime than the Reds as long as they're both competing, right? Like it would.
Because football's king.
Correct. The
That's
NFL
right.
is king.
That's right. And Ohio State's going to get more play than any other.
Not in this town.
No, not in this town. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Lindsay, have a great rest of your day. People are wondering, are we feeding you like anything over there to hang out here? I'm a little worried about you. They're very worried about you in the chat. Are you okay?
No, yeah. You guys give me water and at least one bathroom break. I'm set for the day.
Boy, does it get any better than that? That's all you need.
It's
3 hots and a cot.
That's exactly right. All right, gentlemen, have a good rest of your day. Nick Kirby's interview with David Bell is coming up right now. And don't forget tonight, when do they start? About 5 minutes left in the game. Chatterbox Bearcats?
Yes, that'll start in the second half.
Usually, yeah.
Under 4.
Under 4.
About under 4 to go. Are you doing it tonight?
No, it'll be the regular hosts.
Okay,
It'll
all
be
right.
Charlie.
So that'll be tonight right here on YouTube, our Chatterbox Sports page. So we'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Marty Brenneman will join the program, and we will have James Rapine on tomorrow to talk about some of the offseason questions for the Cincinnati Bengals. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Thanks for being with us.